I didn't need help from anybody. I was good at everything. And this, the drugs and the alcohol, I couldn't stop doing it. I went down a path of destruction, just about escaping the feelings. I never used one without the other. It was chaos. Dump trucks, insanity plowed into us. I know it was the devil. I actually got suspended from baseball. I said, I need help, but I can't do it anymore. I fell on my own. You do with me what you want to do with me, but I surrender.
And welcome to Road to Recovery, the show that offers hope and help and healing and wholeness to those who are struggling with addiction, or maybe family members or friends of a loved one who is on their road through addiction and on their way to recovery. It's a pleasure to have you joining us for this program. We so appreciate all of those who have supported the Road to Recovery program, understanding that we love to bring individuals on this program that will provide that source of hope and help. I'm Steve Rao, and our co-host for this program is the Executive Director of the Recovery Center, Tricia Saunders. Tricia, welcome back to Road to Recovery.
Thank you. How are you doing today,
I'm
Steve?
doing great,
Good.
thank you.
Thanks.
How are the new digs there at 201 South Columbus Street, downtown Lancaster?
Things are going great at our new center, and we are actually seeing more people showing up for counseling, so I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, wonderful. You can't help folks if they don't show up,
That's
right?
And it's been January, February, cold winter months, and
Yeah.
people are coming in, and we're glad to see that.
It's incredible because, again, there are folks here in Lancaster and Fairfield County, especially at the Recovery Center, who will provide hope and help and healing if folks are willing to take the step to do that.
That's absolutely right.
It's great to hear that. 687-4500 is the number for the Recovery Center, or you can stop by 201 South Columbus Street, downtown Lancaster. You and I have talked a little bit about all of the folks who are really ready to help an individual who really wants to get help. I like to refer to it as there's a lot of people on the bus that want to move people in the right direction. Obviously, families on the bus, friends are on the bus, therapists are on the bus, counselors are on the bus, the recovery center is on the bus, spiritual guides on the bus, doctors are on the bus, psychiatrists are on the bus. But I ask people, who's driving the bus? And they'll tell me different people. I say, no. You, as the one going through the struggle, you're driving the bus. You'll take us in the direction that we eventually end up going.
That's right.
Do you see that?
We can all want something for somebody, but you're right. They're in control of their life and the choices they make, and they're the bus driver.
They really are, and yet it's so encouraging to know that when you look in that rearview mirror of the bus, there's a lot of people back there really wanting to help you.
Yes.
One of those people are those in the legal profession, attorneys, judges, and that kind of thing, and we've brought one such attorney with us today. His name is Jim Fields. He's with Fields and Innocente Attorneys at Law. Thanks, Jim, for coming on with us.
Thanks for having me.
We want to learn a little bit about you. Where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Indiana, Connersville, Indiana. It's a small town just across the state line. Went to Earlham College, which is a Quaker institution in Indiana. Then came to Ohio when I went to law school at Capital. Graduated from Capital. Practiced in Columbus for 10 years and then moved my practice to Lancaster in 1997.
When you were going to Capital, were you here in Lancaster and Fairfield County?
No, I lived in Columbus.
Lived in Columbus.
We just happened to find a house here, and that's why we moved to Fairfield County.
I see. So you established your practice here in Lancaster and Fairfield County. In your line of work, do you ever run across folks who are struggling with addiction?
Probably 90% of our cases have some sort of an addiction. We are a general practice firm, but we do a lot of court-appointed cases. We do a lot of criminal and juvenile cases. And most of the attorneys in Lancaster do court-appointed cases. In juvenile, probably 80 to 90% of our children's services cases have drugs, alcohol involved. A lot of heroin, a lot of drug abuse, and you try to get families together. You've got to get the parents clean, whether you're in a criminal case in municipal or common pleas, or in juvenile, and you've got to try to guide them. There's a difference, though, in juvenile and criminal, because in juvenile you're trying to get the family back together. The child has been taken, is in the custody of children's services, and you're working to get everybody reunified. Criminal case is a little different because our first goal is to see if we can win the case. And, at times, I'm sure family members feel that lawyers are enabling their children because we're looking for angles to see what we can do to make sure we defend their rights and to make sure that if they are guilty, that the state has followed the proper procedure. But then once you get to that point, you have to start working on recovery. If they're guilty or even if they're not. I mean, we're called attorneys and counselors, although nobody ever really gave us any of the counseling part of it.
Right.
And my degree in undergrad is American History, Political Science, Literature, and History. So,
see, I don't hear counseling.
Yeah, there's no counseling
Right,
there.
right.
So, you start working with the agencies and you learn to figure out where to send people. The Recovery Center, I was fortunate because in the mid-'90s I was chair of the ADAM board. So I knew all the agencies, I knew the people that worked at the agencies, so I could call people and say, hey, what do I do? Then I was chair of the Recovery Center for a period of time, and then I had kids, and so I changed everything.
Correct.
But yeah, our job is to work with the person to see what we can do to work it out for them and then try to hook them up with counseling. And sometimes, the family members get frustrated, people go to jail, family members just want their loved one to get help. Well, sometimes help includes consequences, going to jail, things like that. And they have to understand that. And then parents get irritated, family members get irritated, but that's part of the recovery. I've always heard you got to hit bottom before you can go up, and I think when you go to jail, that's got to be pretty well at the bottom, and there's
Right.
nowhere to go but up.
Yeah, and unfortunately, legal consequences do come with the territory of addiction in many cases. And sometimes we see people actually getting better before their legal consequences actually hit, and they have to go to jail. But you bring about a good point that sometimes that is a good reminder and a motivator for people to want to make changes in their life.
Have you seen or worked with folks at the Recovery Center who, as you say, started to get better, to get healthier, then they had to deal with the consequences and almost embraced it because they understood that it was another step in their recovery?
Yeah, some people get really upset about having to go to jail, after they've been in recovery for a while, but others, I think, are far enough along that they realize this is part of the path that I have taken in the past, and, I need to follow through with it. But I think, again, it can be a really good motivator that that's not where they want their life to continue.
Well, and part of the selling point when a client comes to me and they've got an issue is you need to get into recovery now. I mean, there's an issue, so it needs to be dealt with. And one of the things that we try to do is to convince the client that if we can take care of the issue, the court doesn't have to. So if we can get them into recovery, we can get them into a program, we can get them working on their addiction, then when we do fund, because court cases can take 3 to 6 months.
Right.
And the prosecution and the courts know that as a defense attorney, what I'm trying to do is delay things. If I can delay things and get things working my way, get my client to understand that there's an issue and get them into recovery, then that consequence may be less. And that's part of the selling point to the client. Look, if you do this, this, and this, you're going to impress the court. Okay, and the court may not think they have to put you in jail to get you to that point.
Sure.
But if you don't and you carry on with the pattern that you are, and you continue to use, you get drug tested while you're on probation, you're going to go to jail.
Right.
And that's the choice they have to make going back with the bus. They're driving, I'm a passenger,
Right.
but I can't drive it for them. I can't protect them 24 hours a day. They've got to make those choices.
And
Yep.
I think you're probably pretty good at figuring out, we have become, who's really motivated to make changes and who are just taking the steps and kind of, walking through the process.
And,
So-
and you can see that in the recovery courts. Our county is blessed to have Judge Barons with his felony recovery court, Judge Trimmer with his municipal, and Judge Williams with his program with family court and his drug court, which was one of the first drug courts in Ohio. And so we've got judges that understand that it's an addiction. We don't have to lock everybody up. We're more productive if we work with the addiction. They go down the road to recovery and they're productive members of society rather than eating up our funds sitting in the county jail or prison.
Very good. Now, do you have on occasion, as Tricia alluded to, some folks who say, I'll go through these steps, I'll go through this process, but I'm really not serious? Because let's face it, the addict can't wait 3 to 6 months to get clean or wait for a final decision from the judge. They need help now. They needed help yesterday. And so do you find them just going through the motions, or would you say a good percentage of them take that as this wake-up call moment for them?
I think it's probably split because they have to hit that point. A lot of times they're treading water. They're just trying to do things because they've disappointed their family. They know what's going on around them. As far as what everybody's thinking, it's a matter of whether or not they can control that urge and what they can do to work with it.
Sure.
So they're treading water. Then they have to hit that point in their mind where this is whether it's a child. You know, I've had cases in children's services cases where child's taken. In my world, that would be motivation for me to stop doing whatever I'm doing.
Sure.
And it's not. You know, heroin has a control over them that they don't make that change, okay? Or they don't make that change for 7-8 months, and we've got a year to reunify. You know, criminal cases, they've gone to jail, and they say, I need to be out to be with my children. And you will hear the judge say, well, why are you here? You know, you had that choice, and you're on probation, especially with a revocation, where you're on probation. So there are people that will work it, they take it to heart, and they go to the programming, and they become ingrained with it. I mean, it's almost like a religion. It truly is. Everything is focused, if it's AA, whatever it may be. And then you've got others that are just kind of floating along trying to get through because they don't want the consequence.
And it's interesting, too, that some people start out not too motivated and they say, well, my attorney sent me here, you know, just to get this letter signed. But when the attorney's talking to them and we're talking to them, you do see a lot of people start to make changes. You know, well, if you can try to stay clean for a week, you know, and you take baby steps, a lot of times people do turn around. But I think your point that some people will give up their children and they feel really horrible about it, but it shows how strong addiction can be.
Yes, it does.
As a public defender, and even in private practice, you are working the legal angle. Let's face it, that's why you went to school. That's how you make your living, and that's the appropriate thing to do. But I know, because you and I are friends, that it's not just about the legal side. You really care about them as a person.
Well, and I think most of my colleagues do too. I mean, these are people that you live with, you're in the community. Some of them I know, as you're aware, I coach a lot. I know their kids. I know them as people. And that's one of the things with addiction. It's not just certain class of people. You know, it's across the board. And so I know the people, and I do care about them. And I think, again, most of my colleagues are that way. You know, they're people, we're trying to help them. And we do have a duty to try to give them the best representation from a legal standpoint, but at the same time try to help them. Because bottom line, we live in the community too.
Yeah, very good point. I've got a couple of minutes left. If you were to offer some encouragement or advice to somebody who is struggling with addiction, or maybe a family member or friend or coworker of someone who is addicted, what would be your strongest advice to them?
Well, the first thing is like I tell all my clients, they need an assessment. They need to know how to deal with things. Hook up with a recovery center or whatever center wherever they may live. You know, a lot of my clients are out of county too. And then listen to your supports. Your family's there, your attorney, your counselor, if you have a case manager, and let them help you. You've got to accept the assistance. Again, you're driving the bus, and like you said, they're in the rearview mirror, but they're there for you. And there's nothing worse than being in court and looking back when I have a client and there's no one there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the bottom. There's nobody there for you. You haven't reached out to anybody. The family's given up on you. You know, and don't give up. You know, I have clients that'll say, I just don't want to do it. I can't do it. Well, you can always do anything. You know, and that's what I tell my kids I coach. You can do anything. All you got to do is accept the help, buy into the program, and there's going to be relapses. Relapse occurs.
Sure.
It's part of the process, but you don't give up. You got to keep struggling through.
Thank you for sharing that. Tricia, it is comforting to know that even in the legal profession, those attorneys who are representing individuals who have struggles really do care about them as people and are, as we say, on that bus, and they're supporting these clients so that they'll get healthy and happy and whole.
It is wonderful. We have a great team in Fairfield County, and obviously most of these attorneys do care because they would be worn out in no time if they really didn't have a lot of compassion and try to do the right thing.
Very well spoken. Jim Fields, Fields & Innocent, the attorneys at law, thanks for coming on with us today. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for watching and listening to Road to Recovery today, the show that offers hope and help and wholeness and healing for those who are struggling with addiction. Please understand that the legal profession, whether it's attorneys or judges, they're really on your side. They want to help you. They want you to get happy and whole and to be healed as well. The Recovery Center can be contacted 687-4500, that's 740-687-4500, or at 201 South Columbus Street in downtown Lancaster. Join us next time as we continue to travel down the road to recovery.
Cotton balls. Duct tape. Spoon.
Needle?
Thread. Scalpel.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.